did? I copied those pictures, those family pictures, and date them. Put the names on them, because when those pictures get old and your grandchildren start looking at them, they won't even know who you are. So put your name, put the names on them, put the dates. So today we're going to take a look at Jesus' ancestry. And those are the people who came before him. Now, we're going to talk about a lady by the name of Ruth and her mother-in-law by the name of Naomi. As I was reading the lesson, it started out with a lot of time we tell mother-in-law jokes. And the mother-in-law jokes are not always very favorable because people say bad words about the mother-in-law. Now, I know none of you all said bad things about your mother-in-law, but I'm going to give you a little taste of mine. My mother-in-law, when I first got married, she wanted me to call her mother, and I just couldn't get the words in my mouth. So I called my mama, because I thought I would be offending my mother by calling somebody else mother. So I called my mama, and I said, Mama, my mother-in-law wants me to call her mother, but I just can't do it. What do you recommend? She said, baby, let me tell you. You start out calling your mother-in-law what you can end up calling her. Because some days you're going to be in love with her. You're going to really love her. And other days you ain't going to like her. And you're not going to feel like calling her mother. So you start out with what you can end up with. She said, of course, I started out calling my mama mother. My mother-in-law mother. But I ended up calling her blank blank. You fill in the blanks. So I said, I got it. I will call her Mrs. Johnson. So I started out calling her Mrs. Johnson, and I ended up calling her Mrs. Johnson. So we're not going to be talking about a mother-in-law that the daughter-in-law couldn't stand. You know, some people can't stand their in-laws. But this daughter loved her mother-in-law as if she was her mother. And in the end, my mother-in-law, she was just like my mother. I loved her like she was my mother. And people thought that she was my mother. They really did. So we're going to take a look at the story of Ruth, and we're in the book of Ruth. But before we get into today's lesson, let me give you a little background. Now, you've heard about the story of Ruth and Naomi probably all of your life. Naomi and her husband, Elimelech, lived in the town of Bethlehem. And that's where Jesus was born. Well, there was a famine in the land. They had two boys, and there was Mahlon, and Chilion. They had two boys, two sons. And there was a famine in the land. You know, during those days when a famine's in the land, they move away to another country. So they moved away to the country of Moab. Now, the country of Moab was not one of those countries that God had recommended for them. You know, a lot of those foreign countries, they serve foreign gods. And God didn't like his people serving foreign gods. So that was one of those countries that they were not to marry in. Now, the law of Moses didn't forbid them to marry a Moabite, but it wasn't recommended. They had to stay with the Israelites because the Israelites served the Almighty God. Well, they moved over to Moab. They stayed there 10 years. So while they were there, the boys got married. One married a girl named Ruth, and the other one married a girl named Oprah. Well, the father died. Naomi's husband died. Elimelech died. Now, they had property back in Bethlehem, but he died. And then later on, the two boys died. And they left the girls widows as well as the mother. they had no husbands. Well, in that day, even if you had property, when the head of the household or the male in the household died, well, the widow couldn't inherit the property because the women were considered slaves, kind of like little slaves, They couldn't own property. They had to rely on the man to take care of them. So now we're still in Moab. Now go back to Moab. They're in Moab. Elimelech died. Naomi's husband died. The two girls' husband died. So they were left with no covering. Nobody to take care of them. They had to have a man to take care of them. I'm so glad it's not like that today. So we'll be in trouble. So Naomi devised a plan. She heard that the crops had started back growing in Bethlehem. She heard that things were just fine over there in Bethlehem. So she decided to go back home to Bethlehem. So they had been gone 10 years, okay? So the girls wanted to follow her because they loved her. She was like their mother. So she said, girls, I'm going back, and no, mama, don't leave her, don't. You know how we do. So she said, okay, but y'all can't go back with me because I don't have any more sons for y'all to marry. And I'm old. And if I did have a child today, are you going to wait till my child grow up so you can marry? So Oprah decided, I better go back. Oh, she said, go back to your mother. Go back to your motherland. So Oprah said, okay, bye, y'all. So she went on back home. But Naomi, now both of them girls loved their mother-in-law. Now I'm going to call her their mother because she was like mother to them. But Ruth loved her mother-in-law so much, she just couldn't turn her loose. She said, no, I'm not going to leave you. I'm not going to leave you. And you know her famous words, whether thou goest, I goeth. Your home will be my home. Your God will be my God. Your people will be my people. And I will be buried where you buried. Mama said, okay, baby. But I don't have no more boys for you now. So I hope you know what you're doing. But Ruth loved her mother-in-law. And not only did she love her mother-in-law, she loved the God that Naomi served. See, she'd been watching Naomi. And she'd been watching Naomi serve her God. And she knew that was something good about this God. And she wanted to keep that. So I'm going to follow Naomi wherever she goes. So she followed her. I wonder how many of us will follow our mother-in-law like that to the end of the world. Something to think about. So, from where they lived, from Moab to Bethlehem, was about 30 or more miles journey. Took about 8 or 9 days to get there because they had to walk. And they had to cross the Jordan River and go through all these mountains and all these curves, so it took them a while to get there. And they were tired, and they were worn out, and they didn't have any food. And I imagine they looked like little tramps, traveling all those miles on foot. So they finally get back to Bethlehem. They've been gone 10 years, but the people there still knew her because they respected Naomi. Everybody loved and respected Naomi. She was a wonderful, God-fearing woman. But when she came back, she said she was bitter. She was well, Bitter, don't call me Naomi. Call me, what's she? Mara. It was Mara? Mara, which means bitter. She was bitter because she had lost everything she had. So she had the daughter-in-law. So she told the daughter-in-law, daughter and I, Naomi was old. The daughter-in-law about 40 years old. So she said, all right, we're going to have to find some food. So I'm gonna tell you to go out in the fields where they are working and glean the fields. Now, if you know anything about farming, y'all know I'm a farmer. When the farmer gathers the crop, they always leave some little scrapings in the field. And they would leave the little scrapings in the field, like peanuts. My daddy did peanuts. So they would always leave little scrapings of peanuts in the field. Pecans, they left scrapings of pecans in the field, corn, that kind of stuff. So that the poor people would have some food. So the poor would go around there and they would pick up the grain and they would take it home as much as they wanted. They take it home. That was their welfare system. Aren't you glad we got a different welfare system? Aren't you glad you don't need the welfare system? But if you need